Side note, this video is gonna be a little bit longer, so grab a cup of tea. Hey, it's Liz, and it's Monday, and I have finished school last week. As some of you may or may not know, I did my second semester of junior year in online school, and finishing that year has, been a lot of things. It's been a little difficult, it's been a little easy, just depending on the class and all of that stuff, and I wanted to, all jokes aside, most jokes aside, talk to you guys about, the pros, the cons, and, what's really going on, because I feel like there's not a lot of resources. Pro, less social anxiety. One of the big reasons that I decided I could not be in an in-person school anymore was social anxiety. I am so bad at talking to people, being around people, it just makes me in a situation where it's not very easy to function. And then put a bunch of standardized testing and AP classes on top of that, and suddenly I can no longer be successful. It's really stressful, and anyone who has any sort of anxiety, you get it. Anxiety isn't something you can do much about. It shuts down your brain, and this has been a huge help in that. As a con, I would definitely say that phone and email anxiety have gotten worse. It's the only way to communicate with your teachers. You have to call them or email them to let them know if you're having a problem outside of class, and it's just, for someone who has phone and email anxiety, really any kind of communication anxiety, that's been rough. I think that's also something that eventually we all have to find a way to work with. So I guess in a way that's kind of like a hidden pro. Pro, you mostly schedule your day. I've loved this, okay? I can sleep in an extra hour, so that means until 6:20 instead of 5:20, and I don't even have to start school right away. I can check my emails and run through Twitter and Instagram, and I've just had so much more time to figure things out, and I can be in school until 5 one day and 1:30 the next. It just depends on what happens, and it's pretty good. You choose, for the most part, when you go to classes. I mean, of course, if you have a required live session, you have to go to it at a certain time, but that's it's just been really relieving to be able to plan my own schedule instead of being oh my gosh, what happens if I get math first thing in the morning? Con, you plan your own schedule. Just as it's a pro, it's also a con, because you either get really attached to your schedule, and when something makes that have to change, that can be really difficult, or you decide, oh, I don't need to start school until 9 or 10 when I'm fully awake, and then I can just work late at night until 11:59 when things are due. And I've pulled a few days like that, and you are allowed to. There's no rule saying you can't. It can be pretty rough. You have to really learn how to manage your time. Pro, it kind of makes learning fun again. Do you ever have those nights where it's 3 a.m., you can't sleep, and you just go on Wikipedia and, you kind of, how many clicks to Jesus, all that good stuff, and you see how you can do stuff and whatever, and learn things, where you just are I'm really curious about this random thing. Being in an online school, because it's online, and you have to, do research online, and it's all online. If you're an internet kid, if you have an internet, if you live your life on the internet, it's really easy to fall into this, because it's not really taking away from your internet time as much as adding to it, and then you're learning. Con, offline materials. Offline materials are things that the school has to send you, textbooks, mainly textbooks, and that's all fine and dandy, except for when they don't. This was a huge problem for me this year, because for over half of the semester, I didn't have my AP Lang textbooks, which means that anything that was a reference to the textbook, I assumed I was supposed to find in my own time. When I couldn't find it, I was don't panic, just don't turn it in, and I've ended up failing the class because of that, because when I finally realized it, it was too late. Half of the due dates were already closed, and I couldn't go back to those assignments. If something like that goes horribly wrong, there's not much you can do about it. Bro, everything's homework. When you get home from school and you're just kind of I don't want to do my homework. I just did 8 hours of school. I don't want to do a second more. Okay. You rarely get to 8 hours of school with online school, except for like in the beginning when you're learning how to manage your time and you don't know what you're doing, and then it ends up being a lot. But before then, not really a big deal. For the most part, it's shorter days because everything you have to do is homework. Like every assignment is technically homework. So it would be silly to be like, oh, here's a quiz on this section and here's the homework you have to turn in for it too. For the most part, there's only like one graded assignment, quizzes for every, like in a unit, quizzes for every section that you do, and then a test. And that's it. Having no excuse to not do your work leads to excuses. There have been quite a few days where I'm like, oh, well, you know, I just haven't gone to these 2 classes, but I can take a break. It's 4:30. I've been working all day. I can stop. I don't need to go to math and English right now. I can pretend like I'm going to write a chapter. I can do some editing. I can plan my next 5 videos, and then I do that for the rest of the night, and I'm like, wow, man, I've had a long day. I'm spent. And then I go to bed. You will still get tired. You will still find a moment where you're like, oh, I am spent. I cannot do another second of work. I'll just go eat. And then, well, and the last on the side of the pros, leaving it in the lead, more time for doing this. At first, switching to online school was hard. I mean, February was a hot mess of a month, as was a lot of March. I was just getting used to it. I was getting caught up, all of that stuff. And I didn't know what was really going on. I didn't know how to manage my time, none of that stuff. So it was really hard to do anything other than school, but it was okay, because, you know, I wasn't too stressed out by it yet. It was still new and fresh and fun and learning, yeah! It was towards the end of March when all of a sudden I was caught up in all my classes, everything was going smoothly, everything was good, and I just suddenly realized I have time. So doing things like throughout the month of May where I put out 2 videos a week was easier, and doing this thing where I continue to make a video weekly, it's easier. Some things that I feel like I should tell you, it's not going to be easier at first. It's going to be a lot harder, and there are going to be days where you're like, oh my god, why did I do this? I should have just stayed in regular school. It's worth it in the end, I promise. You never really get rid of stupid people. Like, there will still be annoying people that you have to deal with in your classes. They will make annoying typos, they will say rude things to the teacher, they will just be overall disruptive in the chat. That's never going to go away. There will always be annoying people, but it's workable, and I find that if you're nice to them, they tend to be a little less annoying. It's funny what positivity can do, right? If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. What do you think of online school? Is it something you've been considering? Is it something that you're like, ooh, not for me? Or is it something that you're like, wow, now that I hear about it, it actually sounds kind of interesting? You can follow me in the links in the description box below, and I highly recommend you do, because I've been on Instagram, I've been on Twitter, I've been uploading chapters of my books. It's all been good, you know, I'm keeping up. I'm on a schedule. You should 10 out of 10 check out my weekly newsletters and outlines and stuff like that in the last section, as well as my Wix website, because I've been working really hard to bring all of those together. Keep up with those, because I'm really proud of what's going on there, and I would love to actually have people other than my girlfriend reading it. Be a bro. Share this video with another bro, and if you have not done so yet, subscribe.